Welcome back to Coffee and Conversation. So, my bad boy, who is sitting at my feet right now, had a good time today. It was pleasant, it was sunny, it was reasonably warm compared to what it's been like, and so he got plenty of outdoor time. Okay, yeah, you can come in. Honey, you want to see them, they want to see you. Go ahead. There we go. So, plenty of outdoor time, and he seems to be quite happy with this. I think it's starting to occur to him that the worst of winter is over. However, we are expecting a snowstorm day after tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. I'm not quite sure. At least 24 hours from now, but no later than 48 hours from now. So I don't think he's going to like that very much. We're supposed to get snow. They say Boston is going to get hit with 2 feet of it, which is, that's not all that crazy for Boston. It's really not. But it's not something people look forward to. So, as far as the baby goes, I think he's going to be okay. He might not like the snow, but it's not as if he hasn't had a chance to get used to it. So, we are going to take a quick break for the intro. Let me just shift him around a little. Come on, come on, come on. Let them see your face. There we go. Ah, that was so good of you. All right, we got Smotty face. All right, we're going to take a quick break for the intro, and we will be right back. So, picking up where we left off last time, let's continue to focus a little on organization. Last time, I spoke about the need to properly approach this mentally and emotionally, to keep in mind what it is you're trying to accomplish. So the philosophy of organization, if you will. And today I thought we'd get into some more practical approaches. So I did something you gotta know I didn't want to do, and went in and organized my bathroom counter. I know why my bathroom counter is always such a mess. It never used to be, but it is now. And that is because I live alone, and post-2020, people do not come into my bathroom. In 2020, most of us got out of the habit of visiting people. We got used to socializing in public spaces, large open areas, because in 2020, that's basically what we had to do. And I think a lot of the changes that we had to make because of the pandemic have stuck with us, for good or for ill. But because of that, my bathroom does not see strangers very often. And because I live alone, when strangers aren't coming into my personal space, everything starts to become my personal space. Nothing is like company-only spaces for me. And frankly, that includes my bathroom. So I got into some very unfortunate habits, and cleaning and organizing and doing it thoughtfully did show me where some of these little social failures were cropping up. Let me give you an example. I use panty liners. I strongly recommend them for everyone. It's a nice little convenience. But it's also something that I really don't want, the guy who cuts my lawn to be seen. Nevertheless, because my bathroom had become my private space, I got accustomed to just leaving them out for the whole world to see in an open box, a box with no lid on it. It wasn't like it was a panty liner box screaming, "These are panty liners." But most people know what they are when they see them. And so that was something very potentially embarrassing. And I realized that that is a habit of convenience I got into because I could. Was it a good idea? Well, I mean, obviously I found it convenient. It saved me a little time. But in the overall scheme of things, is that really how I want to be living my life? Like a person who just doesn't care whether or not the world sees the things that should be private. So I did have to look at that. And I will certainly be taking you in because I did some filming while I was cleaning in there. So you'll get a chance to see this for yourself. But that was what I realized about this space. It is something that other people may have need to access from time to time, even though I don't think more than 2 people have been in my bathroom since the pandemic. Still, it does happen. And I have to get out of that "this is just for me" mindset. And as I say, I live alone now, but I didn't always. And when I wasn't living alone, I was a lot more mindful of my privacy, even from my spouse. So yeah, that's a sloppy little habit I got into. And it was useful to take a look at this organizational theory and find ways to cope with that. So I think that's probably enough of an intro. I'm going to take you right into the filming of what was going on in there and how I began to cope with it. So, as promised, my bathroom counter. As you can see, this is pretty congested. By the way, it was actually a little busier in here before I started loading up this box. So, this piece, that is one of the little drawer dividers that I got when I purchased the set of dividers that helped me clear up my tank top drawer. I thought this might work for some of this stuff, but I realized no. I ended up using a little tin box. Here's the lid, which has to go somewhere else. But I ended up using a little tin box instead. That'll work for now. And I'll probably have to eventually come up with something else for that. But still, that's what this is doing here. The mirror. Let me take this out. Here. Just so you can see this is a makeup mirror. It takes up a lot of space. And the truth is, I really do not use it. Not in this location. Because right below this counter is where Audie's litter box lives. Now, Audie is a very good cat and takes good care of his litter box because he had been a stray. Consequently, he covers up his messy really well because strays do that to hide from potential predators. But still, this is not where I want to sit and put on my makeup. So this makeup mirror sitting here, no, that's going to have to be relocated. So what else do we have in here? We have a couple of interesting celluloid toothbrush holders that do not need to stay in here because I don't use a manual toothbrush, and frankly, even if I did, I don't think these would be big enough because they are a good 70 or 80 years old when toothbrushes were smaller. These are little makeup samples, lotion samples. Got a lot of them here. Face masks. Those are things that have been sitting in my bathroom for as much as 5 years. And if I haven't used them yet, it's not likely I'm going to. They are in the box to be disposed of. Here. We spoke about this last time. This is that box of Kleenex that has been here for years, and if I was using it, I would need to replace it. I'm not using it, so this needs to go somewhere else. So that is a relocate. Most of the rest of this is a throw away, because even if I felt there was any life left in these 5-year-old samples, I really don't even know who I would give them to. So the makeup mirror is going back in here. And this, oh, here, one more thing. These are little toilet bowl cleaner things. You stick it to the side of the toilet bowl, it turns the water blue. I used to use these until I suddenly caught my cat drinking out of the toilet bowl, which means these have to go. I cannot put them into a bowl Audie will be drinking from. So they're out. Now, when I start to look at the rest of this, I really do need to consider the fact, oh, here, that can go in there. That's, when I look at this, all I see is mess. But that's all perfume. Well, mostly all perfume. I actually do use that stuff. Do I need to use quite as much as I have over there? Am I getting a little excessive about it? Well, yeah. Okay, yeah. Definitely a little excessive, maybe a lot excessive. But it's one of my rare indulgences. I just, gosh, at my age, I don't have very many of them anymore. So the perfume stays. And as long as I can keep it all wrangled into a little box, I don't have to feel too guilty about it. This is a cute little box that will hold Band-Aids and whatever here. We got Band-Aids there. So I had just begun the process of organizing that. Ordinarily, I keep most of my first aid supplies elsewhere, but I do keep a few Band-Aids in the bathroom just in case. I have this little cup and saucer caddy, and that has things like, here, this is a lip gloss, a chapstick, and it has things that probably should stay here, so I at least know where they are. The same with this. This is a sugar bowl that has things like hairpins and hair clips in it. So that pretty much needs to stay. This, however, this is a battery-powered tooth flosser, which I really don't use very much. So I have to decide if that's something that I should just get rid of altogether because I prefer to manually floss, or maybe it just needs to be relocated. I'm not sure. This is my water pick, and I do use this, but I don't use it all the time, and maybe it could live somewhere else. Maybe it wouldn't be such a big deal for me if I actually had to take 2 or 3 steps in order to put my hands on this. So I'm setting that aside because before I throw it into the relocation box, I need to dump the water from it. This is dusting powder. That stays. That's what this white mess is all over the counter. Consequently, you can see I really do use that quite a lot. This is something that I do want to keep in here. It's a bar of heavy-duty, like real grease oil, super crud paint, whatever you get on your fingers. This will clean it off. So I do want to keep that here. This is just a whole bunch of concealer sticks that I recently bought. There you go. And I haven't done anything with them. So I haven't even unpacked them. So they're going into the relocation box. And then we are left with things like toothpaste, face cream, a lot of soap, because including that one, we have 2 pumps of soap, 2 bar soaps. Yeah, I'm seeing a certain amount of overkill here. So that is where I have begun in the process, and we're going to see how well I make out. So, you got a chance to see what the dreaded bathroom countertop looked like. And mind you, I had already started cleaning before I filmed. That was just a small portion of the mess I had accumulated. And I think most of it was just carelessness, not thinking, not worrying about it. Everything was there. I didn't have to worry about somebody else coming in and looking at it and judging me. But as I said, I don't want to live like that. I don't want to be that person who lives like that. So when I approached this, I took a look at 4 categories of items. The first one is items I need, items I use, items that should be in the bathroom. And that included some rather odd things like a little spray bottle of water, because I do use that. That's my, I can deal with my hair when I'm having a bad hair day. I can spritz an item of clothing and hang it on the shower rod. It's something that if it wasn't in the bathroom, I would constantly be going off in search of it. So, even odd things are allowed to stay. And the criteria is, am I using it? Is it necessary for the quality of my life that I keep it in the bathroom? That was number 1. Number 2, and this was sort of my default position, things that need to be relocated. Things that, yeah, I might want to keep that, but probably not on my bathroom counter. And that was part of that big box I showed you. That was things that are going to be relocated, discarded, and donated. Whatever. The stuff leaving the area. And when I look at the things that need to be relocated, it included things like that box of tissues that I never use. Why am I giving up that valuable countertop real estate to a box of tissues when I have toilet paper right there? If something catastrophic happens and I need a small bit of disposable paper to deal with it, it's not like I don't have toilet paper. And if I actually want a tissue, I can go into the other room and get one. So that needs to be relocated. Then there were the other things. I had 4 unopened packages that contained concealer tubes. I decided I wanted to do a little experimenting with that. The problem is they've been sitting there unopened on that counter for a week. I also had about a half a dozen tubes of mascara. Again, wanted to do a little experimenting. At least I took those out of the packages. But they were still sitting there, unused, just, yeah, when I get around to it. Well, if it's going to take me that long to get around to it, I should probably put them somewhere else in the meantime. Somewhere, actually what I should do is do the experiment and get it over with and decide what's staying and what's going. But those are things that are likely to stay with me. They will just not stay in the bathroom. And then there was the donation category. Now, in my bathroom, that's a very, very small category. There are some personal care items that, because they are not stale dated and they are fully enclosed in a package, like those little facial masks that I never use, those can be donated. Those might actually be a good donation for one of the charities that is raising money for other causes, or it might be a good donation for the little shop. It's about 1.5 miles from here, that is run by veterans, that they raise money selling things, but they also simply give things to veterans and military families in need. That might be a good donation for them. Somebody might actually really enjoy getting something like this that, let's face it, most of us would consider that a little bit of a goodie. So, yeah, why not? I got no problem with that going to a military family. Why shouldn't they have goodies like everybody else? But because they are completely sealed, that's a type of personal care product I can pass on to someone else. And then the largest of these categories is the discard pile. And that is all of the personal care items that are stale dated because you don't keep old cosmetics. And you don't keep old cosmetics for the same reason you don't give used cosmetics or even lend your cosmetics to someone else. You can transmit bacterial infections. This is not an urban legend. I'm sure I've told you this. One of my coworkers years ago was blinded, temporarily, thank God, but blinded by tainted mascara. And that was a very difficult period for her because, of course, blind is my normal. It was definitely not her normal. So, yeah, you don't play around with that sort of thing. If it's something that has touched your body in an intimate way, particularly around your eyes, because we all have bacteria around our eyes in the area of our eyelashes, and we have reached homeostasis with our own bacteria, but our friends and family may not have. So that's how you transmit bacterial infections that can leave someone blinded. So anyway, enough preaching on that. But I hope by now you all know how I feel about shared cosmetics. Big mistake. That sort of thing is going to be disposed of. If this is a cosmetics product and it's been opened and used, it's being thrown out. And that's all there is to it. So we have those to deal with. And the stuff that's left over, obviously, is the stuff that I want to retain in that space. And as I said, a lot of these things are weird. Not everybody will insist upon a little water spritzer in their bathroom, but I do because I use it. I also keep a pair of scissors in my bathroom. I've always done that. It's a pair of small scissors with blunt tips, mostly because, they're in the bathroom and small children, theoretically at least, would have access to that space. So nothing really dangerous. But that's the sort of thing that allows me to clip a loose thread off an item, a tag off an item, whatever. But if I don't have the scissors there, I'm going to miss them. So I will probably relocate those scissors back into the bathroom. And I have enough little containers that I can keep them out of sight in there. Other things that I use, but just not frequently enough to justify the real estate they occupy on that countertop, are things like that electric dental flosser. One of these days, I might get tired or lazy and not want to floss manually. I don't envision that happening anytime soon, but it's a possibility. That doesn't need to live in the bathroom, but I probably am going to keep it. Same thing with the water pick, which I do use occasionally. That had been a big thing years ago, and it's not quite so popular anymore, but they do come in handy from time to time. Does it need to live on the counter? No. And so I will have to go through that box carefully. The things that are going to be thrown away are going to be very, very easy calls. The things that are going to be relocated somewhere else, that are going to be donated. That's going to be a little more difficult. I would like, obviously, to donate whatever could be donated rather than simply toss it in the trash. But again, in my bathroom, that is going to be a very tiny, tiny fragment of what is actually in there, simply because of the potential health risks of sharing personal care items. So let's go back and take a quick look at where I stopped. This is like the last part of my cleaning. So here you go. So this is actually starting to look a little better, a little less chaotic. Some of the things that I have here are, yes, I still have 2 soaps. I still have some of those lotion and face creams. I still have a lot of perfume. This is a box that holds things like panty liners. It holds the kind of things that if someone I barely knew walked into my bathroom, I wouldn't want them out to be seen. The water, that stays. Also, that blue spray bottle is also full of water. That stays too. I use that when I have bad hair days, and I also use that if I want to spritz clothing and just pop it on the shower rod to dry. Yes, I have a giant stack of washcloths here. For the moment, I'm going to let that stay because it's never really gotten in the way, and I think it may be potentially useful. I've always liked to have a stack of fresh washcloths nearby. I don't know why. The funny thing is, I rarely use them, but maybe I should consider doing something else with them. But the idea that somebody might come into my bathroom and want a washcloth, yeah. Obviously, I have not scrubbed the counter or the sink, so yeah, kind of a problem. And I will do that before I consider the job fully done. But I think this is probably about as well organized as I'm going to get it for the moment. I still feel like I have all of the strange little stuff I need to keep in here, but I think it's cleaner and better organized. And for the moment, I'm kind of okay with that. So the clip you just saw is pretty much where I stopped for the day. I still have to go in and scrub the countertop, scrub the sink, that sort of thing. But I figured I would just save that for tomorrow. It's not like any of that mess is going anywhere. I think there are a few things that may end up going into that disposal / donation / relocation box. After all, you know, when I went back in and looked at it shortly before I began filming this video, I thought to myself, do I really need this? Do I really need that? Some things, you know, are certainly going to stay. I have a little Art Deco hair receiver in there that is full of little fragrance beads. It's a bathroom. It needs fragrance beads. And it's a very pretty little Art Deco hair receiver. That's where my failure point is. When I go in there and I look at these little things, especially my little bits of china, and say, yes, but I've been using them for this purpose for so long. That little sugar bowl, for example, which is a very, very pretty piece, that has become my bathroom hair clip and bobby pin catch-all. And it's been like that for a long, long time. Consequently, I'm reluctant to let it go. And there are other things like that. I was able to get rid of some of those soaps. Yes, I had 4 separate soaps, 2 bar soaps and 2 pumps. I was able to move one of those pumps out and one of those bars out. So now I have a bar and a little pump, and that should be enough for anyone. Other things, however, do need to stay. There is always going to be a certain amount of clutter there, mostly because I don't keep a medicine cabinet. Most people keep a medicine cabinet, so they have the same clutter. It's just that theirs is hidden. I don't find that medicine cabinets work well for me at all. In fact, I just find them very intimidating because I don't like the idea of breakable items right over my bathroom sink, where if they fall, of course my bathroom counter is tile, so it doesn't matter where a medicine cabinet would be. A glass item falling on the tile or the porcelain sink is going to shatter into a million pieces and make a real mess. So that's the largest argument I have about medicine cabinets. But to be fair, I also like having my things out where I can see them. So I think the bottom line is I have that reasonably well organized. Am I going to go back and tweak it some more? Yes. When I go in and scrub the countertop and the sink, I am probably going to pull a couple of other things out of there. Some of the things, like that massive collection of perfumes, which, by the way, is only a small portion of my perfume. But that stays because I love my perfume. I use my perfume. And I will give up a certain amount of bathroom real estate to have the perfume there. I also keep some in my bedroom, which is a very bad idea because you shouldn't keep perfume bottles on wood furniture because the perfume has alcohol in it that will eat the finish off the wood. It'll probably eat right through the wood itself. But I keep most of the perfumes that are currently in my bedroom on a porcelain tray. So, yeah, I'm safe there. However, I have expanded somewhat beyond that porcelain tray, and those are items that are going to have to go into the bathroom where at least they are on a surface that won't be harmed by the alcohol content of the perfume. That is just a peculiarity of perfume, and that is why many years ago, when it was customary for genteel ladies to maintain a vanity table, that's why those vanity tables had glass tops, because spills, because of the danger of ruining furniture by spilling your cosmetic chemicals on that wood surface. So that stays, and the only thing I can say about that is, well, that is one of my little eccentricities. Other things I am going to be able to scale back over time. For example, I have a very large, but fortunately almost empty, tube of toothpaste in there. But recently, when I was experimenting with packing for travel, that whole prepping my gym bag thing, I realized I have probably a dozen little travel-size toothpaste tubes. I need to start using them up. Toothpaste doesn't really expire, but I can tell you from personal experience as a toothpaste hoarder that if you keep that stuff long enough, the viscosity tends to change. The chemical composition will break down over time, and that nice, gel toothpaste that is so lovely today will get gritty and sort of powdery 20 years from now. And yes, I have held toothpaste for 20 years, so I do know what I'm talking about. But anyway, the point of all of this was I went into that bathroom with a plan, the 4 categories of items that I was going to select as I organized. Everything was going into one of those categories. Keep, relocate, donate, or toss. Very simple. And by making up my mind, and gosh, this is my bathroom, that's my beloved stuff. I really had to make up my mind to go in and deal with this. Just by doing that on the way in as I started the project, it made it a great deal easier. And now that I am comfortable with what I have done, I don't go into the bathroom and say, oh, where's all my stuff? Which I thought I would. I thought I would go in and say, oh no, let me get that box and put this stuff back. I did not. I like the relative cleanliness, and mind you, I haven't even washed the counters off yet, and I'm still impressed with the relative cleanliness of that space. But I like that relative cleanliness enough so that I am not giving in to my little, magpie urges of, oh no, this is pretty, I must keep it. It turned out to be remarkably successful. So, am I going to be able to take that same pattern to other areas of my home? Yes, absolutely. What my fear is, and I will be honest with you, because this is something that is rattling around in the back of my head, and I do start to worry about this. Am I going to turn into my ex-mother-in-law, who had literally a box of rocks? She had a box. It was late. Oh, I'm sorry. I should probably throw this out to you. She had been a researcher at National Institute for Health. So this woman was meticulous. A box full of rocks with a label on it saying rocks. Each rock was labeled. These were just rocks, stones you would pick up off the ground that she had picked up from various places she had visited over the years. In a box, meticulously labeled, and she had been moving them around with her for like 40 years. I don't want to turn into my mother-in-law. Well, no one does, but I do not want to allow myself to keep things that are not working for me. So when I say this just needs to be relocated, I need to keep it, but it needs to live somewhere else. I have to be careful, and I have to tell myself, look at this with cold, pragmatic eyes. Is this really something you need to say? Or is this one of your mother-in-law's rocks? I don't want to do that. And that temptation is strong with me. It's like, yes, well, I'll put it in a box and I'll store it somewhere and it'll be neatly organized just like those rocks were. And then I get to keep it. Well, if I'm not using it, why am I keeping it? So that's what I have to keep telling myself. And I am, however, very happy with the way this worked out. So that's why I wanted to share it with you, because just by creating those categories, keep, relocate, donate, toss, that's it. Just by keeping that in mind, it made the process go very simply and very smoothly. It made it remarkably painless, because anything that I really, really, really didn't want to give up would just get relocated. And then when I go through that box, I'm going to have to be more brutal. But by the time I go through that box, and that's going to be probably at least another several days, maybe even a week, I will have hardened myself to the idea of living without that item in my immediate personal space. In other words, on my bathroom counter. If I'm not seeing it every day, and if I can go for 3 or 4 days without seeing it, and without having some massive anxiety attack, because, oh my goodness, what happened to that automatic flosser? What if I need it one day? As long as I can do that for a few days, then I can look at that and say, do I really need it after all? I've been living without it for a while. It may not be that easy. I'm hoping it is, but it may not be that easy now. But if I relocate it to a storage bin somewhere and I haven't gone after it in a few months, then it's going to be really easy to be rid of it, because by then I will have proven to myself that life goes on without that little automatic flossing machine. And that's what makes it emotionally comfortable for me to go in and brutally pare down my stuff. Because frankly, most of us do have some degree of emotional attachment to our things. If we didn't like it, it probably wouldn't have migrated into our space to begin with. So we know we have an attachment. It's just a question of finding ways to break those attachments so that we can see this realistically and make decisions based on practical concerns and not, emotional weepiness because that was such a wonderful automatic flosser. I was so lucky to have it. I have to distance myself from that. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful for you. Certainly making the video for you was very helpful for me because it got me to clean that bathroom, which I needed to do. And also, I really needed to show you something that I agonize over, that has been a really difficult organizational project for me, so that maybe you can look at this and say, well, if that pack rat can clean out her bathroom counter, I bet I could throw away, this saucer that doesn't have a cup going to it and, just collecting dust in my cabinet. That's my hope anyway. So we are going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out. Thank you all for being with us. I'm glad we had a little bit of Audie time, and I hope to see you next time. Remember, those of you who follow Just Chattin', that will be this evening, 8 o'clock New York City time. For everybody else, I look forward to seeing you next week, and in the meanwhile, have a terrific day.